On day 7, we'll be taking a full-day tour of northern Los Angeles. We'll be looking at Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and many other places like that. Let's head out.
Black gold, Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move.
We'll be catching our tour bus in Santa Monica.
So they loaded up the truck and removed the Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars.
Parking $15 flat rate, that's not that far to walk.
We park our car for the day and then we head back to the Low Salon, Paddle, and Surf Shop. That's where our bus leaves from. Let's look around a little bit as we wait.
Well, now it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his kin. They would like to thank you folks for coming.
We're going to be taking a Surf City tours, and we'll be using an open bus like this. I'm going to let our guide talk now.
All right, guys, good morning. How you guys doing?
Just fine.
All right, guys, my name is Talib. That's spelled T-A-L-I-B. If you can't remember that, you can call me Steve, no problem. I'm a nice guy. And what we're going to do, we're going to go inside Beverly Hills. I'm going to show you some of my houses. Hopefully I can impress you all. I'll do my best. Now, also coming up on our left hand side is a famous pier and beach coming up on our left. And it's the famous Santa Monica Pier and Beach coming up on our left. And it's the scene of a lot of TV shows and movies. Two that come to mind is Baywatch and Three's Company on our left. For itinerary, what we're going to be doing today, first we're going to leave Santa Monica on a street called Santa Monica. We're going to go through towns like Westwood, Century City, and then Beverly Hills. And that's when the floodgates going to open up when we get inside Beverly Hills. You're going to hear me talk a lot when we get inside Beverly Hills. Now I'm going to show you a few houses the first time in Beverly Hills. Then we'll leave the hills and go through West Hollywood. And when we get to the inner edges of Hollywood, we're going to make a right turn and go to the Grove, also known as the original Farmers Market. And there inside, you'll see a plethora of restaurants to choose from. If you're hungry, you can have a late breakfast or an early lunch. And if you're not hungry, guys, go shopping at the Grove. It's one of the major malls in LA. Then we're going to leave the Grove. We're going to go downtown Hollywood. We're going to see the Hollywood Walk of Fame and all the attractions of Hollywood. Then we're going to get back on the bus and start the main portion of the tour. We're going to go up in the Hollywood Hills, parts of Beverly Hills we didn't see, and we're going to end the tour with either walking or riding down Rodeo Drive. Okay. Sound like a plan? What I want to show you is in front of me, because right in front of me, guys, is a walking avenue called the 3rd Street Promenade. And the 3rd Street Promenade is a walking avenue. If you want to have a drink, there's a bar called Barney and Keaton, Mr. Elvis Presley. Who else? Mr. P. Diddy, and a few more houses. Alright, guys. Coming up on our right is a store called Target. Coming up on our right, and there it is. And we don't say Target, we say Target, trying to be fancy. It's all just trying to be fancy. And Little Red Riding Hood has a kid in front of me. I want to show you in front of me from a distance. Because if you look in front of me from a distance, see this bridge in front of me is part of the 405 freeway. And the 405 freeway is considered one of the most congested freeways in the United States, if not the most congested. And when people talk about the bad traffic in LA, they normally talk about the 405 right in front of me. But lucky for us, we're going to be on the bridge, and we're going to go right on the bridge of the 405. From the movie Inferno, right in front of us, guys, the fire truck. The movie Inferno. And guys, coming up on our left is the Tesla showroom. And Elon Musk is also the CEO of a space exploration program called SpaceX. Mr. Elon Musk, the 3rd richest man in the world. When they need some assistance, they'll come to the center, coming up on our right. Because, guys, coming up on our right is the famous Betty Ford Center, coming up on our right. And if you don't know what the Betty Ford Center is, it's a famous rehab for rich people and celebrities in Beverly Hills. And coming up on our right is the famous Betty Ford Center, coming up on our right. And there's Beavis and Butt here across the street in front of me, guys. Oh, there's a lady? Oh, there's 2 guys, I'm sorry. Now, also coming up on our right is one of the major malls in LA called the Century City Mall. Well, colloquially it's called the Century City Mall, but it's really one of the Westfield malls that originated in Australia, coming up on our right. Hey guys, one of the coolest things about most major malls in LA, the corridors are outside. So when you're walking down the corridors, you're literally outside because it only rains 20 to 25 times a year here in LA. And here on the right is one of the major malls in LA called the Century City or Westfield Mall that originated in Australia on the right. So on our left is a hotel called the Beverly Hilton. And the Beverly Hills is where we had the Golden Globes last year and this year also. When Oprah Winfrey did her famous speech, it was inside the Beverly Hilton here on the left. And this is also the hotel where a famous singer by the name of Miss Whitney Houston, she died inside this hotel in room 434 of the hotel called the Beverly Hilton here on the left. So now when I pass this great church coming up on our left, look at this cactus park coming up on our left, displaying many types of cacti coming up on our left. And as you guys may know, California's been a desert at one time, and they're displaying many types of cacti or cactuses coming up on our left. And look at these 9 different types of cacti or cactuses coming up on our left. Once I make my turn in front of me, look on our right, because coming up on our right, once I make my turn, is a famous sign called the famous Beverly Hills sign that appears in movies like Beverly Hills Cops, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and many more movies coming up on our right once I make my turn. And if you ever wanted to see the postcard view of Beverly Hills, you're looking at it right now. Wide streets, palm trees, expensive homes on both sides of the street. There's tens of thousands of people that live in Beverly Hills, but only 1% are celebrities. The others are doctors and lawyers, business executives, entrepreneurs, people behind the scenes like executive producers and directors, also people who inherit a lot of money. And so many famous scenes shown on this street that we're on right now. The chasing scene from the movie Beverly Hills Cops, so Mr. Eddie Murphy, Mr. Nick Nolte in the movie Down and Out in Beverly Hills, a lot of killing in the movie Zombieland, and many more movies shot on this street that we're on right now. At the hotel called the famous Beverly Hills Hotel, owned by the Sultan of Brunei. And again, he's worth $25 billion with a B. That's all. And we're gonna see the hotel when we pass back through Beverly Hills again. For 2 months, when he first came to LA, he gave us 3 championships in LA and went to Miami and got another championship. And here on our left is a home that temporarily lived in Mr. Shaquille O'Neal for 2 months on our left hand side.
Homelessness is a real problem in LA, and you even have them in Beverly Hills if you look.
Coming up on our left, and her family still lives there to this very day. And when she was a little girl, she liked singing about lollipops on our left. All right, guys, a home of Miss Shirley Temple Black across the street on our left. He has songs like Studio, Against All Odds, Into the Air, and many more hits on our left hand side. But I heard he's back in the UK. Now it's Powell on the right hand side. He used to be the judge of a show called American Idol. Now he's a judge of a show called America's Got Talent. And I heard he's nicer now. He has a kid. King is on the left. Very nice guy. When he died, guys, I was so sad. He was a nice guy. He came to the bus about 4 times from this house on the left hand side. And that's a little basketball court right in front of the garage over your left complex called the Sierra Towers. And there's a famous singer who owned the top floor of this building by the name of Mr. Elton John. He paid $15 million for that top floor on our left at the famous condo complex called the Sierra Towers on our left. And what's that? Michael Jackson came in 5 times for the same body part on the left. Just kidding, but not really. And Dr. Monica is one of the doctors from the TV show Dr. 90210 and it's been a surnamed Surgery on the Sunset on the left. Sunset Boulevard, guys. And Sunset Boulevard got its name in the 1920s during the Prohibition times when it was not allowed to drink. This is one of the very few avenues that insisted on catering to the drinkers. So when people got off of work around 4 p.m. in the 1920s, they came to this avenue to drink at the bars. And the cutoff time was at sunset. And that's how we got the name, Sunset Boulevard. Coming up on our left hand side is a red and black place called the Whiskey A Go-Go. It's a private movie screening place, but they also have private parties there and small concerts. And there's an actress by the name of Goldie Hawn that was first hired in Hollywood as a go-go dancer right here at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Coming up on our left hand side, also Motley Crue, the Blues, Led Zeppelin, and many more perform at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Jimi Hendrix lived when they was on top of the Whiskey A Go-Go. This used to be the epicenter of rock and roll Hollywood in the 60s and early 70s, and it's also inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame also. The famous Whiskey A Go-Go is on Viper Room, formerly owned by Johnny Depp. But Johnny Depp sold this because one of his best friends, River Phoenix, collapsed and died from a drug overdose. Right outside the doors of the Viper Room, coming up on our right, River Phoenix collapsed in the arms of his brother, Joaquin Phoenix, another actor, and Johnny Depp was so distraught by that he sold the club. He said he didn't want anything to do with this place anymore, and he hasn't been back since. And this same place on the right used to be called the Melody Room at one time, and there's a famous actress by the name of Miss Marilyn Monroe. She went there one time and met a future husband by the name of Mr. Joe DiMaggio. They met the Melody Room, now called Viper Room, on the right-hand side. Owned by actor Pauly Shore. Check out the signatures on the wall. People like Carlos Mencia, Whoopi Goldberg, David Letterman, Jay Leno, Jimmy J.J. Walker, Red Fox. All the names on this wall have performed at one point in their career. So if you want to see a live comedy show, just come here to the Comedy Store on the left-hand side. And there it is. And if you know the old deceased singer by the name of Mr. Little Richard, he used to live inside this hotel on our left called Endas. Little Richard's one of those celebrities that chose to live in a hotel. Janis Joplin did the same thing when she was alive. Jim Belushi died. This is also a place where Jim Morrison from The Doors, he was seen on the roof threatening to commit suicide. And also Lindsay Lohan is permanently barred from this place. She got a little crazy one night and they kicked her out and told her never to come back again. So Lynn's now working in this place on the left called the Chateau Marmont. Lady Gaga was staying here just a couple of months ago at the Chateau Marmont, here on the left-hand side. Now, also coming up on our left-hand side in a moment is another comedy place called the world-famous Laugh Factory. It's the humble beginnings of a lot of famous comedians also. People like Tim Allen, Jerry Seinfeld, Adam Sandler, Martin Lawrence, Kevin Hart, Whoopi Goldberg, Dane Cook, and many more have done the beginnings right here. People on the bus, if you think you're funny, every Tuesday around 7 o'clock, allow people from the public to get on stage for 3 minutes. If they think you're funny, they will call you there for a second show. I mean, look to your left, because coming up on our left is a famous studio called the famous CBS Studio. Shows like The Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and many more TV shows are filmed inside this place on our left, called the famous CBS Studio on our left. And there's the store in front of me, World Market. Use it as a reference to find the bus. All right, guys, we're going to meet back at 11:55. All right, guys, once I make my turn up on the right-hand side, because coming up on our right is a high school called Fairfax High. And Fairfax High School is a high school of a rock and roll group by the name of the Red Hot Chili Peppers on our right. Also the former high school of an R&B group by the name of the Jackson 5 here on the right, with the exclusion of Michael. You know, Mikey was special, he was homeschooled, but the rest of them went to this high school on the right called Fairfax High. And also the high school of Demi Moore and also Mimi Kunis. Ashton Kutcher's both of his wives went to this high school. Just 4 lights in front of me, you're going to see one of LA's novelties. It's a novelty of LA that's called Pink's Hot Dog. And yes, it's a hot dog restaurant. And the reason I'll show you this hot dog restaurant is one of the oldest active restaurants in LA, founded in 1939. People like Peter Falk from the TV show Columbo, Teddy Savalas from the TV show Kojak, and many more people that hang out at Pink's. There it is. Let's see Miss Speaker walking down the corridor. And there it is. And if you know of a famous actor by the name of Mr. Brad Pitt, it's a blue and white place. They used to be called the famous Hollywood Gym. It's still called Hollywood Gym, but it's not that famous anymore. At one time, only celebrities and rich people went to this gym, but now anyone can join the gym. People like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Farrah Fawcett, Chuck Norris, and many more see in this gym. Because right in front of me on our left-hand side is the once famous Hollywood Gym on our left. And there's an image of a young Arnold Schwarzenegger in front of the place on the left-hand side. And there it is. 4 silver statuettes that represent the 4 major ethnicities of women in film. And they go by the name of Dolores Del Rio, Anna Mae Wong, Dorothy Dandridge, and Mae West of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The Hollywood Walk of Fame starts at La Brea Avenue, where we're going to see the 4 silver statuettes, and it goes all the way down to Vine Street. There's over 2,800 stars on Hollywood Boulevard, which makes up the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So you may be walking down Hollywood Boulevard and see stars on the ground with no name inside. That's because it's a future place of a future Walk of Famer. It's not free for a celebrity to put his or her name inside of a star. Each celebrity has to pay $25,000 and also get approved by the LA Board before they get a star on Hollywood Boulevard. Throughout the history of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, there only has been one celebrity that has been denied a star on Hollywood Boulevard. And no, it's not Lindsay Lohan. He goes by the name of Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. So the fans and supporters of Jerry Garcia raised $17,000. At the time, it was $7,000 to get a star. but they raised $17,000 and insisted that he get his star on Hollywood Boulevard. The LA boys say, no, we're not going to give it to him because he's a drug addict. It's a place called the Grauman's Chinese Theater. This is where we hold our Hollywood movie premieres at this famous place on our left called the famous Grauman's Chinese Theater.
We're going to have some time to look around and look at the stars and at Grumman Theater.
That's Hooey Valley, Hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a fan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may get Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood. 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 Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even
Gardens
good.
Hotel, and it used to be called the Landmark Hotel, but this Miss Janis Joplin died inside this hotel directly in front of us. She died in the 70s at the age of 27 over a heroin overdose inside this hotel. And two of her hits was Me and Bobby McGee and a famous song called Mercedes-Benz, Miss Janis Joplin. And the Magic Castle, where we have our live magic shows here in Hollywood. People like David Copperfield, David Blaine, Penn and Teller, and many more people have performed at the Magic Castle here on the left-hand side. Render, but that's the actual building on our left. It's the last scene from the movie Pretty Woman on our left. Remember the famous fire escapes? And in the movies depicted as an apartment building, but in reality it's a cheap hotel called the Las Palmas. Because coming up on our right-hand side is a famous building called the famous Capitol Records building coming up on our right. And this building is associated with a lot of famous performers. People like Justin Bieber, Kanye West, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, Usher, and many more people associated with this building coming up on our right.
We seem to find homeless people everywhere.
On the right-hand side across the street, there's an outside venue called the Hollywood Bowl. The Hollywood Bowl is one of the largest amphitheaters in the United States. It can seat up to 18,000 people. And some of the major acts that performed here included Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, AC/DC, Diana Ross, Pink Floyd, and many more. But one of the most common acts is the LA Philharmonic. They perform here all the time at the Hollywood Bowl coming up on our left.
This is a homeless encampment of motorhomes that they use for living in. Now, are these homeless people over here? Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
And we finally made to the street called Mulholland Drive. And Mulholland Drive is a very popular street. It's known for two major things. First of all, it's known for its twists and turns, and it's also known for celebrity accidents. People like Justin Bieber, Lindsay Lohan had their accidents up here because they'll leave the club at 2 o'clock in the morning, drunk or whatever, and they think they can maneuver this street, but they find themselves at the bottom of the cliff sometimes. And check out these curves of Mulholland Drive. Each left sign on our left is 50 foot tall on our left. And this sign used to be called Hollywood Land sign, but in 1975, the LAND portion of the sign crumbled down the hill. Now we're stuck with the Hollywood sign. And this sign was used as a real estate ploy to attract people to Hollywood. That's why it was called Hollywood Land sign. Telling me she missed me. I got this big blue area, that's Universal Studios. Also, you're looking at towns like Studio City, Van Nuys, Sherman Oaks, Burbank, and many more cities of the valley. And you're looking at San Fernando. Tourism Place, not Drive, 3100 Tourism Place, just in case you want to Google it. It is now house now for sale, guys, in front of me. It's for sale for $35 million. If you're looking in front on the right-hand side, you're looking at towns like Tarzana, Encino, Winnetka, Topanga Canyon, Woodland Hills, Calabasas, and many more cities of the valley. Now, Encino is a town where a famous family lives. The famous Jacksons live in Encino. In fact, the patriarch just died like two years ago, Mr. Joe Jackson. And also there's a base drop in front of me.
Sanford.
Now, if you know the movie by the name of Fast. And the Summit is a privately gated community where a lot of famous people live. People like Britney Spears has a house back there, Blake Shelton, Gwen Stefani, and also Miss Whitney Houston used to have a house back there before she died. In this neighborhood across the Cape, it's called the Summit. There's only one way in and one way out of the Summit. And no one told me the logic why they removed the D from Disney World. They should have asked me. They catch me back there, they can find me $1,000. It's pretty serious. $1,000 is pretty serious for me. Being caught behind this gate. And Brittany was sitting on that sign in front of me. Brittany, Brittany, Brittany. Around this curve in front of me, look to your left and check out this glass house that Justin was renting for $59,000 a month. Check out this glass house. Not too bad. He said no roof, and that's it. It has no roof. So from his living room, throw eggs from his house all the way down the hill, hitting his neighbors. And people ask me all the time what happened when it rains. He used to have a retractable roof. They just hit a button inside the house. Some come that metal structure outside the house and covers the whole house when it rains. Paying $59,000 a month. Here in Beverly Hills, not all of them, but most of them are a little more extravagant in Beverly Hills. Inside, Mike Tyson lived in his house when he had money. He now lives in a one-bedroom apartment right next door to me, selling my peanut butter and jelly all the time. Beverly Hills Hotel, coming up on our right again. When you look on the left-hand side in a moment, you're going to see a relatively small beige house on our left. They used to belong to a famous guy by the name of former President Donald J. Trump on the left-hand side. And he bought this house on our left for $7 million, and he sold it last year for $13 million on our left. History. Anybody know who I'm talking about?
Lucille Ball.
I agree. Behind me, she said Lucille Ball. And we'll see that house in just a moment. Diane Keaton stars in movies like First Wives, Close Up, Gotta Give, all the Godfather movies. She also won an Academy Award in 1978 for the movie Annie Hall. One of the homes of Miss Diane Keaton is on the right. And here on our left-hand side is a house we rented by Miss Celine Dion on our left. She has multiple homes in Canada. She also has a big penthouse in Las Vegas. The Falk. Here on our left-hand side is where the late actor Peter Falk once lived from the TV show called Columbo on our left. His family and widow still lives there to this very day. In fact, the widow comes to the bus every now and then. Here on our left is where the late Jack Benny once lived from the TV show and the radio show, The Jack Benny Show, on our left. Look on the right-hand side, you'll see some Buddha statues and trees that hide in the California home of the king, Mr. Elvis Presley. And this is not Graceland, that's in Memphis, Tennessee, where he had a California home, and you're looking at it right now. His daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, used to live here also. I don't know where she lives in the United States, but I know she used to have a house in New Zealand. And here on the right, you see old footage of Elvis playing tennis. He's playing tennis at this tennis court on our right. Michael Jackson lived and died on our left-hand side. Michael Jackson had his fatal heart attack in the room upstairs, where you see the balcony all the way upstairs. And Michael Jackson was renting his house for $100,000 a month. He was living here for 6 months preparing for his tour. This is it, when he met his untimely demise in 2009. And this is not Neverland Ranch, this is Santa Barbara. Remember, he sold Neverland Ranch. This house is owned by AEG, one of the sponsors of Michael Jackson. So he was actually renting this house from his sponsor for $100,000 a month. And if you remember in 2009 when they brought the body of Michael Jackson out of a gate, coming up on our left-hand side is the gate where they brought the body of Michael Jackson out of. And to this day, people still put flowers and cards on the former gate of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at the hospital, but actually died on his property on the left-hand side. And there it is. And this gate is really open on our left. Guys, directly in front of us is one of the entrances of the Playboy Mansion. This is also the entrance where Hugh Hefner used to get his weekly supply of Viagra through this gate right here. And to the right of the gate, above these trees, look at this old house above the trees in front of us, known as the famous Playboy Mansion in front of me. And this is an instance, I have a canopy on the bus. So you can see it. And Hugh Hefner used to have a $2 million bird collection. He kept his $2 million bird collection, his bird house, coming up on our left-hand side. It's kind of camouflage in the woods, coming up on our left. If you look close, you'll see the birdhouse or the woods here on the left. And there it is, on the left. And also on the left-hand side is a walking oasis where Hugh Hefner used to take his daily walk on a daily basis. I used to see him maybe once or twice a month. Sometime he waved, sometime he didn't. Also coming up on our left-hand side is Olympic-sized pool and patio area of the Playboy Mansion. And then there's some major work to the patio area on our left. And also coming up on our left, some tennis courts of the Playboy Mansion, some tennis courts on our left. And also coming up on our left-hand side, there's a little tiny guest house of the Playboy Mansion. See how tiny it is? And we're finally coming to the end of the property now of the Playboy Mansion, one of the biggest estates in the United States, the biggest being the Fillmore Mansion in Tennessee. Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony, when they were married. They have since sold this house after the divorce. Mark Anthony moved back to Puerto Rico. Jennifer Lopez bought a house in Malibu. She also has a house in New York and one in Miami, and a yacht parked in Miami. But she said she's still Jenny on the block. Look at this house and some characters of Mr. Walt Disney here on the right. Not too bad, right? Nor can I stop in front of this sign coming up on our left that appears in movies like Beverly Hills Cops, TV shows like sign coming up on our left that appears in movies like Beverly Hills Cops, TV shows like Beverly Hills 90210 in front of me coming up on our left. Something strange about Beverly Hills that's unlike any city or town that I'm aware of. And the thing that's strange about Beverly Hills is right in your face. Hint, look down every street we pass by and it's right in your face. Each street has its own kind of tree to border the street on the right and left of it. So on this street, gonna be this street on the right and left from beginning to end, all the way up and down the street. But look at the trees on the street I'm about to turn on. It's gonna be these trees on the right and left from beginning to end, all the way up and down the street. And look to your left, it's gonna be these trees. And that's an indication that you know you're in Beverly Hills. Each street has its own kind of tree that borders the street all the way up and down the street, as you can see. And this is the ficus tree, if I'm not mistaken, ficus tree. This house I want to show you is a house known as the Witch's House of Beverly Hills. Seen in movies like Hocus Pocus, Hansel and Gretel, and many more movies and TV shows. And right in front of me, then on our right hand side, check out the Witch's House of Beverly Hills, coming up on our right. And read that sign if you can on our right hand side. It's kind of shaded. It said, please don't pick the berries, the witch. And green on the side it says the witch in green. Alright guys, we're looking at Rodeo Drive. Rodeo Drive represents the most expensive avenue to shop on in the United States. The average item is between $500 and $700. There's a lot of items cost less, but there's a lot of items cost more. So it averages $500 to $700. In the summertime, thousands of people on the street of Rodeo Drive, but very few people have shopping bags in their hands. Well, if you notice on our right, there's a yellow store called Bijan Designer for Men's. It's considered one of the most expensive men's clothing stores in the world. He clothes presidents, entertainers, dignitaries from around the world. And look at the name on the car, look at the name on the parking meter, and look at the name on the store. All three have Bijan on the right hand side. Sometimes he has his $1.7 million Bugatti parked right in this spot. But today he has his yellow Rolls Royce parked there. And also coming up on our right-hand side is a store owned by a famous Italian clothier by the name of Mr. George Marciano, by the name of Guess, coming up on our right-hand side, a Guess store. And this store is going to be open, but it used to be open on our left, called Chanel. I've never been inside, I thought it was Chanel's channel. I'm from Alabama, guys, you got to give me a break. I'm not as cultured as you guys are. Alright guys, he's in the right on the red Ferrari right in front of me. Who's inside? This is a rich guy, boring. And we're gonna pass by Cartier on our left. A scene from the TV show Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where you see them outside at the table eating. Sometimes they're sitting under the Lux Hotel awning here on our left hand side. Normally have a table and chairs right here. That's selling the property. And also on the right hand side is a green store called Gucci, followed by Prada, seen in the movie Devils Wear Prada on our right. And also got this big hotel directly in front of us. It's a hotel called the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, a scene from the movie Pretty Woman. If you remember the scene where Richard Gere paid for the services of Julia Roberts, it happened in one of the rooms of the Beverly Hills Hotel, directly in front of me. And the average diplomatic suite is around $2,000 a night. I've seen so many people walking up and down this alley right in front of me to our left, right beside the store called Stefano Ricci. Even seen Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez before they broke up. They had a big entourage behind them coming down this alley, right beside the store called Stefano Ricci. And we're going to pass by this popular store on our right called Louis Vuitton. On our right, there it is. Louis Vuitton. Recommendations or directions, feel free to ask me. I do consider myself pretty resourceful, so I should be able to see you in the right direction. What you guys got things to do? Hold on, guys. Should have took
it. And now our tour is over, and we're going to head to Venice Beach to look around just a little bit before we head to our hotel. There's not a lot going on in Venice Beach right now. It's a weekday, and also it's kind of cold to be swimming. And we continue to find homeless people wherever we look. And now it's time to leave Venice Beach and head back to our hotel. We'll pick up some Milo burgers on the way home and eat them when we get to the hotel. This is the view from our balcony across LA. If you'll notice the mountains in the distance, you're never very far from the mountains, and we're in the landing pattern of the airport. And now it's time to call day 7 to an end.